Hey, this is Russ with Keller Williams. Good afternoon, I guess, already. I've been up a while. What a beautiful day, huh? Look at that. Look at all those white-covered mountains. But, here I am on my deck with sunshine and a t-shirt. Okay, so I promised this morning, I don't know if you guys saw my little post this morning about supply constraints, but I wanted to follow up on that with the video. Like I said, I would. All right, here's the deal. There's 4 major supply constraints right off the top that we often don't think about. Approximately 88% of land is owned by the government in Chelan County in one form or another, right? So that makes the available, buildable, privately held lands what? Not a super strong math, but I think it's 12%. All right, let's take that 12% and call it 100%. That's the total that we have to work with under any set of circumstances. That's it, because we're not going to get government to give us more land. Okay, number one, we have topography problems. You see over there? At least as it relates to the Columbia River Valley, Lake Chelan Valley, with a lot of mountains, right, around us. So it's hard to build on a vertical slope. It gets very expensive. The second supply constraint, which is pretty straightforward, is infrastructure, right? If you don't have water, power, road, sewer, and access, you're not going to develop anything of high density, right? You might be able to drill a well, but that's only going to get you 1 or 2 or a handful at the most, and that's if you go through a process called the Group B application, and it's not a guarantee. All right, so these infrastructure issues, when we take that out of the 12%, just like we take the topography issues out of the 12%, now what are we down to? I don't know. We probably need a forensic accountant to help us figure this all out, but let's call it 3% each. So we're now down to 6% of available lands. Well, then we have a zoning problem, the third supply constraint, right? Not counting the fact that 88% of the land is owned by the government, which was the first one. So I guess this is our fourth supply constraint, and that is zoning, right? So a long time ago, we had a lot of farmers. My dad was one of them. R.I.P. my best friend, passed away in April. He and his friends and my dad's mom and dad were farmers. Lots of farmers around everywhere, right? I'd homesteaded this area. Well, when the Growth Management Act went down, long story short, we ended up with a lot of acreage because we were mainly thinking farming and agriculture. So we have 20-acre minimums, 10-acre minimums, 5-acre minimums, and not a lot of high-density zoning. So when you think about it, these supply constraints, they really have nothing to do with the demand side of the curve, but they have a lot to do with, well, let's say we have 1,000 buyers. What are we going to do with them? Let's say somebody walks to town and says, I want to go build something. I got a question for you. How long do you think it would take in Chelan County to get maybe a 2-lot short plat where you just take a piece of property, everything's okay, everything's going to be fine, and you got to go through the process? Let me hint. I'll give you hints longer than it should be. And that's kind of a new one, but it's always been there to some degree, but the governmental regulations, the process, the inefficiency of that process at times, especially when they're overloaded. I mean, they're doing the best they can in some cases as employees of the government, but bottom line is it's a bottleneck because all of a sudden we have a shift in a shift in demand, and we have all these supply constraints. So everybody's trying to get variances and do this and do that and trying to get around. And guess what? Then there's this crazy dichotomy that exists. I grew up in Manson. Man, I had 22 kids, I think, in my senior class. My dad was born in a little house in Manson. My grandmother came over on a covered wagon, right, when she was 7. Passed away at 101. Here's the deal. Growth kind of sucks. My dad probably liked 1950. I liked 1987. It was a great year. I was 18 years old. But we can't go back. And unless we're going to put some tanks on the hill and stop people from coming to Chelan or stop people from coming to Leavenworth, tanks as in military tanks, which I hope doesn't ever happen, then free markets work, and this is a beautiful place to live. And all of a sudden, the COVID adoption, in other words, the COVID virus, has led companies to say, you have the green light to work from home. So now people, for the first time, really in history, unless you were very sophisticated or had some specialized job, this is the first time people can make the same kind of money they used to have to live in the city to make, i.e., Bellevue, Seattle, etc. Well, if you could live here and make the same money you used to have to live in the city, and you can sell something and capture that equity, $1 million for a 2-bedroom condo, come over here and buy a lot with $1 million, right? A lot more than a 2-bedroom condo. So there's this shifting, demographic shifting, where we're selling to younger people that are going to move here and call it a primary residence. In my 30 years, we've sold a lot of places to Puget Sound. Buyers moving over the hill or buying over the hill, but it was always for secondary homes and or investment properties. Very rarely were there primary residences. Well, now that's what we're seeing. So can you imagine what that's unlocking relative to the number of people that live in Puget Sound? A lot. So when you add all this up, on one hand, we don't like growth. We don't like development. On the other hand, God dang it, why is the home so expensive? Why can't we find anything to buy? Why are our taxes going up? That's a dichotomy. It's hard to be both. So smart growth, getting behind smart developers that want to do things like protect trails and protect parks and still have a cost-effective rate of return on their investment, makes sense, right? Got to lower risk, got to raise the return. All right, 6 minutes. I got 9 seconds left. Leroy's my dog right there. He says, get off. 4, 3, 2, 1. 6 minutes or under. I'm done. See ya.